My coworker stole my promotion and told everyone it was her idea. When I confronted her, she laughed. "You'll always be second best." Our boss smirked. "She deserves it more than you." But when a secret email chain was leaked to the entire office, their careers went up in flames. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to take revenge. I've always been the work hard, stay out of drama type. But when someone steals what's rightfully yours, rubs it in your face, and laughs about it, something inside you changes. This is the story of how my coworker took my promotion, humiliated me, and thought she got away with it, until a leaked email chain brought everything crashing down. I worked at a marketing firm in Chicago, one of those big agencies that handle high-profile clients. I had been there for almost 10 years, starting as an intern and working my way up to senior strategist. I was good at my job, great, even. My numbers were solid, my clients were happy, and I had built a strong reputation. A few months ago, the director of strategy position opened up. This was the job, the one I had been working toward for years. My boss, Daniel, had even hinted that I was the top candidate. My peers congratulated me in advance, and I started preparing for what felt like an inevitable transition. Then there was Victoria. Victoria had been hired 2 years ago. She was younger, less experienced, but had a way of making herself seem important. She could walk into a meeting, regurgitate the last thing she heard, and somehow take credit for it. She wasn't particularly creative, nor did she contribute anything groundbreaking, but she was good at talking. More importantly, she knew how to make the right people like her. I should have seen it coming. It started small. Victoria began inserting herself into my projects. At first, it seemed like she was just helping out, offering to take notes in meetings or forwarding emails. Then, suddenly, she was the one presenting my ideas to the team. She would rephrase things I had already said and make it seem like she was leading the charge. She started CCing our boss, Daniel, on every little thing. If I suggested a strategy to a client, she would immediately email Daniel. "Just a heads up, I'm advising client X to go with a social-first approach. Let me know your thoughts." Like it was her idea. At first, I didn't say anything. I figured my work would speak for itself. But then I started hearing things. Victoria's been really stepping up lately. She has such great leadership skills. She's always on top of things, so proactive. It was like she was rewriting history in real time. Still, I didn't panic. I had the experience, the results, and the trust of my clients. The promotion was practically mine. Or so I thought. One afternoon, Daniel called me into his office. I walked in expecting to finalize the details of my new role. Instead, he gave me a tight-lipped smile. "I wanted to tell you personally before the announcement goes out." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "We've decided to go with Victoria for the director position." I blinked. Wait, what? It was a tough decision, but leadership feels she's the best fit for where we're headed. I sat there stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I don't understand," I finally said. "My numbers are better. My projects have had more success." "I've been here for years. It's not just about performance," he interrupted. "Victoria has a fresh perspective. She's really shown leadership qualities lately." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. And then, just as I was leaving, I saw Victoria standing outside the office. She looked at me, smirked, and said, "Oh, you really thought you were getting it? That's adorable." I just walked away. I didn't trust myself to speak. I tried to be professional about it. I really did. I told myself to let it go, to move on. But as the days passed, I couldn't ignore what was happening. Victoria started acting like she had earned the promotion. She walked around like she had been personally chosen by the gods of marketing. She started making these little digs at me in meetings, things like, "Well, some people just aren't leadership material." And my boss? He was suddenly treating me like I was beneath him. Like I had lost some invisible game and now I had to sit at the kids' table. But the worst part? People started looking at me differently. The same people who had congratulated me before the announcement were suddenly quiet. They bought into the idea that maybe Victoria really was the better choice. I felt humiliated. That's when I decided I wasn't going to take this lying down. A few weeks later, I was working late, fixing one of Victoria's messes, because, surprise, she had no idea what she was doing. I was going through some old email chains to find a report, and that's when I saw it. An email thread between Victoria and Daniel. At first, I wasn't sure why I was even copied. Then I realized I wasn't supposed to be. It must have been an accident. I started reading. It was a strategy. They had planned this for months. Victoria had been feeding Daniel lies about me, saying I was difficult to work with, that I struggled with leadership. Daniel had agreed to slowly phase me out so that by the time the promotion was announced, no one would question it. There were emails about sabotaging my work. Daniel had actually written, "We just need to make sure OP's work doesn't shine too brightly before the announcement." If she pushes back, we frame it as defensiveness. I felt my hands shake as I scrolled. Victoria had even gone as far as to suggest taking credit for my ideas before I had the chance to present them. She had planned it all. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen. I felt sick. I had given 10 years to this company. I had worked late nights, skipped vacations, put everything into my job, only for these two snakes to stab me in the back. And now, I had proof. I took screenshots. I saved every email, every message. And then I did something that would change everything. I forwarded the entire email chain to the company's shared leadership drive. I hit send. And then I sat back and watched as the world around me started to burn. I didn't expect it to happen so fast. Within minutes, the office buzzed like a beehive. Phones rang. Slack notifications blew up. People gathered in small clusters, whispering furiously. The first reply to the email chain came from Karen, the VP of Operations. What the hell is this? Then came Steve, the head of HR. Is this a joke? Who sent this? The email was forwarded. And forwarded again. Until it had spread through every department, every executive's inbox, every corner of the company. I stayed at my desk, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I was waiting for someone to call me, to ask if I had sent it. But the truth was, it didn't matter anymore. The damage was already done. Victoria stormed into the office first. Her heels clicked against the floor so hard that heads turned. She made a beeline for Daniel's office and slammed the door behind her. Not even 30 seconds later, Daniel's voice thundered from inside. Who did this? I could hear Victoria's panicked whispers through the glass. Then Daniel again, louder. This makes us look bad, Victoria. This is career-ending. I smirked. Good. Moments later, the door flew open, and both of them stepped out. Their eyes scanned the room until they landed on me. Victoria's face was flushed red, her polished confidence cracked for the first time. Daniel's hands clenched at his sides. They knew. But they couldn't say anything. Not in front of everyone. Instead, Daniel took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and walked straight to HR. Victoria, however, marched toward me. You think this is funny? She hissed. I tilted my head. What do you mean? She leaned in, voice so low only I could hear. You just ruined your own career. You think this will make them promote you? I shrugged. I guess we'll see. Her eyes flickered with something, a crack in her mask. Fear. Then she turned and stomped away, disappearing into the HR office with Daniel. Meetings were canceled. Emails stopped. It was like time had frozen inside the company. People whispered in the break room. Some openly talked about it by the printers. Nobody liked Daniel, and even fewer people liked Victoria. Then I got a Slack message. Karen, VP of Operations, come to my office. Now. I stood up, feeling the weight of every stare as I walked past the cubicles. People knew it was me. Some smirked. Others gave me wide-eyed looks like I had just set off a bomb. Which, in a way, I had. Karen sat at her desk, arms crossed. She was a no-nonsense woman, someone who had been with the company longer than Daniel. She wasn't someone who got involved in petty office drama, but she was definitely involved now. She stared at me for a long moment before speaking. You sent the email, didn't you? I didn't answer. She sighed, tapping a pen against the table. Let me rephrase. You're the one who found it. I nodded. She sat back, exhaling sharply. Then she laughed. Jesus. I always knew Daniel was full of nonsense, but this... She shook her head. Then she leaned forward. Do you know why Victoria got the job? I narrowed my eyes. Because Daniel wanted a puppet? She smirked. Close. But it's worse than that. She turned her monitor around. There was an email chain open, one I hadn't seen before. Victoria's dad is on the board of directors, Karen said. I stared at the screen. There it was, in black and white. Daniel had been pressured to promote Victoria. The emails showed backdoor conversations, deals being made, and HR being told to overlook everything. It had never been about my performance. It had never been about me at all. Victoria was handed the job. I clenched my fists. This wasn't just office politics. This was corruption. Karen watched me carefully. I've been sitting on this for a while, she admitted. But after today, I think it's time to do something about it. I looked at her. Are you saying what I think you're saying? She smiled. I hope you're ready, because this is about to get a whole lot bigger. Karen's words hung in the air. I hope you're ready, because this is about to get a whole lot bigger. I wasn't sure what she meant at first, but then she clicked on another email, one she hadn't shown me yet. It was from Daniel to someone outside the company. I leaned in, my pulse quickening. The subject line was vague, just, regarding the transition plan. But the content? It was a promise. Daniel had guaranteed a major contract to a client, one that Victoria's father was personally connected to. In exchange, Victoria's promotion had been quietly secured through the board. Karen nodded. Yeah, this isn't just favoritism. This is fraud. I ran a hand through my hair, my brain working a mile a minute. This wasn't just about me getting screwed over anymore. This was about the company. If this got out, it wouldn't just be Daniel and Victoria losing their jobs. This could trigger a full-scale corporate investigation. Karen sighed. Look, I don't like playing office politics, but I've been waiting for something like this. Daniel has been a snake for years. And Victoria? She's just another entitled rich kid who thought she could waltz in and take whatever she wanted. So what do we do? I asked. She looked me dead in the eye. We bring them both down. But we have to be smart about it. By the next morning, everything felt different. The email leak had already set off chaos, but Karen and I knew that exposing the deal with Victoria's father was the real nuke. Karen had already started pulling HR records, looking for other questionable promotions Daniel had approved. Turns out, Victoria wasn't the only one who had mysteriously jumped the ladder. There were 3 other employees who had gotten promotions despite terrible performance records. 2 of them had family connections to board members. 1 had direct ties to the CEO's private investments. This wasn't just about Victoria anymore. Daniel had been selling promotions like they were stock options. And we were about to rip the whole thing open. The office was tense. Everyone knew Daniel was under fire, but Victoria? She was starting to unravel. She came into work looking rattled. Gone was the usual confident strut, the fake smiles. She barely spoke to anyone. I could see it in her eyes, she was scared. Mid-morning, she tried to play damage control. She called an urgent team meeting in a desperate attempt to reassert her authority. I sat in the back of the room, arms crossed. I know there's been a lot of misinformation spreading, she began, her voice tight. I just want to clarify that I worked hard for this promotion. I earned it. Someone snorted. Loudly. Victoria's eyes darted to the noise. It was Ryan, a senior analyst. He smirked, leaning back in his chair. Yeah? Funny how working hard looks a lot like taking credit for other people's ideas. A few people chuckled. Others muttered in agreement. Victoria's face turned red. Look, she was cut off by Sam from HR, who suddenly appeared at the door. Victoria? We need to talk. Now. The room fell silent. Victoria swallowed hard, then forced a stiff smile. Of course. Just, let me finish up here first. Sam didn't budge. No, it's not optional. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Victoria had no choice but to stand up and leave. She had lost control. And everyone knew it. While Victoria was sinking, Daniel was fighting back. Karen had been in back-to-back meetings with HR and legal, pulling records, cross-referencing emails, and quietly building a case. But Daniel wasn't stupid. He knew he was in trouble. Late that afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. Unknown, come to my office. Now, no Karen, no HR, just us. It was Daniel. I stared at my phone for a long moment before finally standing up. I had a feeling this would be the last conversation I'd ever have with him. I stepped into Daniel's office. He was standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline, hands in his pockets like some corporate villain. When he turned, his face was unreadable. I underestimated you, he said. I didn't respond. I'll be direct, he continued. We both know how this ends. I lose. But you? You could still come out of this clean. I raised an eyebrow. What exactly are you offering? He exhaled. A way out. A settlement. You walk away quietly, and in return, I make sure you get a solid severance package. Maybe even a job offer at another firm. You win. I win. Nobody needs to go nuclear. I almost laughed. You think I did all this just for a paycheck? I asked. His jaw tightened. I'm giving you a chance to walk away, he said. But if you keep pushing, if you keep digging, this is going to get ugly. For everyone. He was bluffing. He had nothing left. It's already ugly, I said. And you made it that way. Then I turned and walked out. I went straight to Karen's office and told her everything. She didn't look surprised. That means he's scared, she said. He knows it's over. And she was right. Because an hour later, we got an internal memo. Daniel was placed on immediate administrative leave. Victoria was suspended, pending an internal investigation. But we weren't done yet. Because we had one more bomb to drop. The board of directors was about to find out that their entire promotion system was rigged. And when they did, everything would burn. Daniel was gone. Victoria was suspended. The entire office was in chaos. But Karen and I both knew something, this wasn't over. Because the board of directors, the same people who had allowed this corruption to fester, were still silent. That was about to change. Karen had one last move. She wasn't just gunning for Daniel and Victoria, she wanted the entire system exposed. She had compiled everything, the fraudulent promotions Daniel had approved, the corrupt ties between Victoria's father and the company, the deals that had been made under the table. Then she set up an emergency all-hands meeting. Attendance wasn't optional. The conference room was packed. Every seat was filled. People stood along the walls, whispering, their eyes darting around the room. At the front sat the board of directors. Their faces were stiff, unreadable. Karen stood beside the projector. She glanced at me before she began. "I'm not going to waste time," she said. "What I'm about to show you affects every single person in this room." Then she clicked. The first slide appeared. It was the email chain between Daniel and Victoria. Gasps. Murmurs. Click. The promotion bribery emails appeared. Click. The personal emails between Daniel and Victoria's father discussing financial deals. Click. More evidence of other employees who had been promoted for personal connections rather than merit. The room was dead silent. I could feel it in the air: rage, betrayal, disbelief. Then, suddenly, Victoria stood up. Her face was pale. This is all being twisted," she said, her voice shaking. Yes, my father is on the board, but that doesn't mean I didn't work hard." A harsh laugh came from Ryan, the senior analyst. "You didn't work at all," he said. "You took credit for everything. You let Daniel clear the way for you. And now you're pretending like you're the victim?" The floodgates opened. People began shouting. "You screwed over so many people. I lost a promotion to one of your boardroom pets. You let Daniel run this place like a dictatorship." Victoria broke. Her hands shook as she turned to the board, pleading. "Dad, say something. Do something." But her father, one of the senior board members, just sat there, staring at the screen. His face was blank, but his eyes were cold. And then, he stood up. "We need to talk," he said, voice heavy with finality. Victoria stopped breathing. "No, Dad, wait. But he was already walking toward the exit. And he didn't look back." Her face collapsed. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked small. Like she had just realized that she wasn't untouchable. Then she grabbed her bag and stormed out. And just like that, she was gone. Now all eyes turned to the board. They knew. And we knew they knew. One of them, a tall man in a gray suit, cleared his throat. "Mr. Lawson, the chairman. We appreciate the concerns raised here today," he said, carefully. "Rest assured, we will be conducting an internal review." And Karen laughed. Not a haha laugh. Are you serious? Laugh. "An internal review," she said. "Your board is the problem. You signed off on Daniel's deals. You ignored complaints about promotions. And now you're pretending you had no idea?" The tension was suffocating. "If you don't fix this, if you don't fire every single person responsible for this mess, this will go public," Karen continued. "And I promise you, the media will eat this up." Silence. Then Mr. Lawson nodded. "Give us 24 hours, he said. And the meeting was over. Everything moved fast. By the next morning, Daniel's resignation was officially announced. Victoria's employment was terminated. 2 other board members stepped down. An external audit was launched. The entire company was being rebuilt from the inside out. And me? Karen called me into her office the next day. She smiled. "You did it." I shook my head. "We did it." She slid a folder across the desk. I opened it. A contract. For the director of strategy position. "No more backroom deals," Karen said. "No more snakes. You earned this. Take it or leave it." I hesitated. After everything, did I really want to stay? Did I want to work in a place that had treated me like garbage until I fought back? But then I thought about it. This was my company now. Not Daniel's. Not Victoria's. Mine. I picked up the pen. And I signed. Looking back, I still feel the sting of betrayal. Daniel tried to destroy me. Victoria mocked me. My work was stolen, my reputation attacked. But in the end, they lost. And I won. Not because I played dirty, but because I refused to be silenced. Some people think revenge is about burning everything down. But the best kind of revenge is becoming the person they said you'd never be. And making sure they have to watch.